Good afternoon everyone, Ragewood here, back with another Godforge video, and the wait is finally over. Today we are going to find out about the gearing and weapon system in Godforge in today's Fateless video. Now whilst I am doing this intro, I am actually going to be doing this 100% live this time. If I quickly switch screen, we can see it starts in 7 minutes, so I'm going to get myself a drink. And then we're going to go watch through and react together. It's going to be completely unadulterated. The only editing I'll do is bring up Simon's voice if I need to match mine so we can all hear him clearly. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm currently doing work on the website right now, changing the hero pages. And I imagine I'll have a little bit more to do once we've got the information. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Right, so here we go then. It's there as we refresh it. Ooh. We're waiting for the totally non-budget countdown to come in, or are we going to have straight into Simon? Oh, here we go.
Welcome back.
Bloody adverts!
Take a deep breath. Now breathe out. Excellent. Now breathe in. Session complete.
So here we go, adverts are gone. Just mute that for a second. So as you can see, the budget for the countdown is still there, which is good to see. I don't know why I'm looking over here. You guys are definitely over there. That's definitely something I need to change. So yeah, I feel anxious and I don't know why. Giddy with excitement. No, we're buffering. God, I hate it when that happens. Let's refresh. Two, one, roll the clip. We've adjusted the quality. Let's go again.
Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. This is probably the most requested video that I've had for a while. So some of the stuff we've been hiding under the hood, we're gonna release today and kind of go through some of the details. So what we're doing, we're gonna do gear, we're gonna do weapons and imprints, we're gonna do battle UI, and yeah, let's get into it. 60,000 subs on YouTube now. Thank you everyone who is following the journey. Really appreciate it. As a celebration of that, we do this quite a lot actually when we hit landmarks. I did share in the Discord one of our dragons.
So
again,
cool.
I'll link down the Discord down below. If you guys want to get involved, you can come and join that and get the leaks as they come out fresh. Join that.
So just a quick one then. This is Shenlong, and he is one of the 4 dragons in sort of Chinese lore. The tale goes that the Jade Emperor didn't send rain to the people, so the dragons went to the sea, scooped up a load of water, spat it into the clouds to make it rain on the sort of the lands and to help the people. The Jade Emperor got angry and got a mountain god to trap them all under mountains. You had the Pearl Dragon, the Azure Dragon, Yellow Dragon and the Long Dragon, I think it was. And then they eventually, to continue to provide to help the people, they sort of became rivers. At least that is the story that I'm aware of. But he looks so cool. So good. And I'm pausing it here. I know we're already a minute or two behind at this stage. And I will add this to the website later. So yeah, I don't need to do a separate video for it now. Looks wicked.
Down below, if you guys want to get involved, you can come and join that and get the leaks as they come out fresh. So I guess what we're going to start with actually is the battle UI. We've been making some changes. Forget the blurry background image, doesn't matter. It's just a UI thrown over the top of an image. But what have we been doing? We've been trying to make sure that everything is as clear and clean as possible. Okay, so we've got obviously our enemy heroes and our hero in action.
So we've obviously got poisons, we've got increased accuracy maybe, and God knows what this helmet is. That's really exciting. But they're making it obvious the ultimate's ready with the blue fiery ring. I love that.
We've got on the left-hand side a kind of like scrollable who's due next for a turn. And if there's like a little red hint at the moment, that is an enemy. If it's not, it's your team. We might change this kind of redness, but would love to know your thoughts on it. But certainly the kind of like feel of team order or turn order, sorry, on the left is one that we like. We have got arrows depicting your affinity matchup. So double green means you're going to hit them hard. Yellow means it's going to be a normal hit, and red means it could be a weak hit. But again, there's just kind of like some logic around what that means. It's not the same as what you might have seen in other games, but I'll go into that in a separate video. But ultimately, there will be chances to land stuff based on these. Obviously, buffs and debuffs, red being a debuff, blue being a buff. You see your team on your portraits down the bottom left, and the enemies have theirs over their heads. The yellow bar is a turn meter bar. The red bar for the enemy is your health, and for the green bar is your health for your team. And then if there's a shield, this is kind of like grey color. And then
Oh, that must be a shield then. Obviously. Duh.
We've got affinity meter building up. I'd like to know your feedback on this actually in this kind of like box. We're trying to show a lot of things on the UI without making it too complex for a brain, right? So we're trying to try and keep it as clean as possible. But this is basically an divinity meter that's growing, and that will be how you unleash an ultimate ability. So for your heroes down the bottom left here, you can see divinity going up. When your ultimate is ready, we got this flame effect. Aphrodite is ready. She's ready to unleash an ult. And on your turn, you would be able to click Aphrodite on any of your heroes and unleash her ult. So that's one of our kind of like key strategic things is using ultimates when you think it's going to benefit your team as a whole. So you can unlock some really cool combos of ults going off. So yeah, divinity meters here. So top right, we've got speed of play. We've got auto gameplay on. We've got
Love 3 times speed, by the way. Great that that's in.
a pause, but also kind of way to cascade down the other options. So an info button, which will tell you about your team and the debuffs you've got and that type of stuff. We've got a damage kind of like meter,
Okay.
or it would also have healing and shielding. If you guys want to have that up, it can be up the whole time. But
Love that. And this goes back to a podcast or video that Susie did with Brad, in that it's important to have the information so you can see who is providing value and who is not. So for example, Musashi might need better gear or skill tomes or something in here to improve his viability in your squad.
you can just toggle it.
But also it's interesting, 5 heroes there, 4 down here. Can we fight with 4? Can we fight with 5? Because there's no Brynhild anywhere, so I wonder where that's come from.
On or off. There's also a way to just watch the gameplay cinematic style. You know, we've gone for this kind of like cinematic cool view, so you can literally turn off the whole UI and just have it running on auto, which is quite cool. We've got down at the bottom left your basic ability, your core ability, any passive skills, and then your hero will have their ultimates. So that's pretty much the bones of the UI. We are looking to do an ability where if you've got auto running, you can turn off a skill that has a cooldown. So it's not going to eat away like your core ability if you're trying to save those for, you know, like the next wave of enemies or something like that. So we've got some interesting stuff going on with the battle UI, but let me know what you think down below. Let's go into gearing. So gearing is going to feel quite comfortable.
So his name's changed to what I've got online already. I wonder if that's just a placeholder.
If you've played any of these style of games before, but we are trying to make sure that we've got really good kind of like search ability.
Got some really good base stats as well, gotta say.
That type of thing. Annoyingly, I'm on Figma here and you can't quite see, but we've made it so that you can search for You know, if a stat is not on an item, for example, and filter that way, or basically different filtering options that make it as easy as possible to use. So let's just kind of like run through what's going on here.
Flawless Nightweave, Gauntlets of the Wolf. But yes, a pretty good bit of kit. And interesting, it's got 5 substats rather than 4. So is that what legendary gear has in Godforge? Maybe common pieces start with 2 or 1 even? Gain 5% attack at the start of each wave. That could be pretty strong, depending on how many waves there are. Oh, I've got so much work to do. I need to get money together to get someone else to do it.
Yeah. This piece is Flawless Nightweave, Gauntlet of the Wolf. So the wolf is kind of like the set ability. Flawless is the quality of the piece, and Nightweave is the kind of the matchup of a type of hero. So that will come
That's interesting. So that's going to be like World of Warcraft in that, you know, cloth gauntlets can only be worn on certain heroes. Leather gauntlets can only be worn on certain heroes. Same with mail. At least that's the way that I see it. Or it might be some other sort of classification. But it's interesting that not all gear can go on all characters. I like that. And as Simon said, wolf being, so you might also have bear, which gives strength. And this sort of gives me D&D barbarian vibes, where you can be a barbarian of the bear, barbarian of something else, and you get different stats or benefits. That's really cool. I like that.
You'll understand it in a minute. So what's going on? Wolf, this particular set will give you a set bonus if you have 2 of the same. This is one of our most basic sets in the game, but this one will give you extra attack. We could equip that here, and you can kind of see it go over. There's an enhance ability. There's no cost to equip or unequip an item. There is a cost in-game, obviously, to enhance. So you'll enhance, you'll get additional stats. The way we're actually running stat growth, again, I'd love your feedback on this.
It's like Watcher.
You actually see all of your stats going up with each roll. So you basically start to get a feel for whether it's going in the direction you want very early on. Okay, and is it rolling into stats that you like? But ultimately, you're gaining stats across the board with each.
That's interesting. So you'll always gain stats, but one of them will gain more? That's sort of the vibe I'm getting there. Let's go back. What was it before he rolled it up?
You'll enhance, you'll get.
So it was nothing.
Stats. The way we're actually running your item, you can only attune an item if it
let's go back
across the board with each roll, which I think is quite cool. There is an ability to attune your item. You can only attune an item if it is the set that makes sense to the type of hero that you've got. So let's say you've got a tank, and you would attune plate mail, for example, to a tank, and you would gain additional stats for doing that.
Just like we said a second ago.
And there will be a gold cost to do it. I'd say that's more of like an end game mechanic, because once you've attuned, that piece is done a lock to that hero. Okay, so unless you pay to remove it. But it's kind of like cherry on top type of vibe for maxing out your build. That's the thinking here. So you'd only want to be going into attunement once you've got a piece that you think is going to be longer term for that hero. But as long as it's not attuned, totally free to move stuff around. Well, no, it's free to move stuff around anyway, but we're trying to just make sure there's like an end game mechanic which really like tips it into the top quality area. So that's the kind of basics around gear. There's going to be about 20 odd sets. I think it's a bit more than 22 sets, I think, on launch. So a set throughout campaign, and then different sets in your dungeons. Some really interesting different like passive abilities that you'll get from your sets. So we tried to make it really, really just as interesting and give you as much depth as possible while still being, you know, easy enough for a new player just to pick up. There will be like a auto-equip type of feature, which will equip gear that makes some sense for the hero that you're trying to build out. But obviously, min-maxing it will need to come from your own knowledge and brain. Okay, I think I covered everything on gear, or at least like the basics on gear. Let's go into weapons. We've got some interesting stuff going on with our weapon system. So again, I'm on a Figma thing here, so you can kind of I'll play through what's going on. The Forge of Wayland is where you'll be able to craft and empower and equip weapons.
So I was right there. I did when we first saw the Forge of Wayland in the Sanctum in our CC leaks. I guessed that this might be where you forge weapons. This guy's mentioned in poetry and Norse mythology. He's an old Germanic hero, also in Beowulf as well.
So there are different rarities of weapons: legendary, epic, and rare. So I can go into my collection here and see the
Excalibur of Susanoo. It's interesting. Excalibur is an Arthurian legend sword. Susanoo is the Japanese, or one of the sort of prophetic children in Japanese lore. So does that confirm he's in the game? I think it pretty much does, but interesting. And I was right about the imprints. You imprint onto the weapon, so you indirectly buff heroes. Oh, that's cool. Obviously placeholder image, I guess, because it's the same as this one. That's fascinating.
different weapons I've got. So this is Excalibur, for example, and we can do different things. So I could kind of look through my collection. I can't do it in this little tutorial thing, but to look through my collection here, I can refine my weapons, which is basically leveling them up.
Yeah, and you're going to need this resource here to do
I
it.
can deconstruct my weapon. So basically what this is going to do is if I've got weapons that I don't need, I'll get some ore back, which will help me with the refinement. And then I can also imprint onto my weapon. So what does this mean? This is one of our mechanics, which I'm pretty excited about, actually. I think it's one of the kind of like standout features, which is going to create amazing amounts of depth in the game, awesome builds, like really fun combos. So I'm really excited for this. So what's going on? So you'd be able to select your weapon. You'd then be able to choose an imprint of a hero and imprint that hero onto a weapon to give them a new passive ability. So I'm just going to take you through the kind of like style guide of how we got this going on here.
So very much like the relic system in Raid, if you are familiar with that. Now, it's funny that Raid only dropped the relics tail end of last year, I think, with Chimera. And Plateless have obviously had this in the irons for a while, so I wonder how they felt when the relic system came out for Raid. They're like, no, they're going to think we've copied it. It's fascinating.
So we have got attunement as well in weapons, but basically we have got a weapon which will have a passive ability on it, or an implicit, we're calling it here. And this is going to have some really cool effects as you're going through the game. You get some stats on weapons as well. You can then have any kind of like bonus info and imprint info, which we'll go through in a second, and you can enhance them. So different rarities of weapons will have kind of like different levels of implicit abilities. Just go through an idea of how like a final weapon would look. So ultimately you would have your implicit and then your passive ability, which you would get from a hero. So in this example here, at the start of each round, the hero gains a shield for 2 turns equal to 12% of this hero's max HP. That, as it stands right now, is Leonidas's imprint. Okay,
That's really, really cool. Love that.
so how can you get an imprint? It's either a dupe hero that you don't need, that you convert into an imprint, or you can actually just earn imprints through different events and
That's cool.
and sort of farming within the game. So it becomes like a secondary cool feature really from our heroes, that you could have a Excalibur weapon on King Arthur, but with the imprint of a Zeus, for example. Ultimately endless like combos of cool stuff that you can do. I think what I'm most looking forward to is when people are using their rare heroes that they don't need to actually play with in game, and actually using those as imprints on cool weapons, because the passive just really fits what you're trying to do with a build. You can also attune.
Just quickly, so that throws us back to when Dirkclose mentioned it, something that Lady Zoc had. Like, she might not be great, but something she does. So she's obviously got a really cool imprint of some description.
Weapons as well. So in a similar way to what I spoke about with gear, basically you get an attunement bonus, which will give you additional stats. Again, you would need to be able to attune to the right type of hero. So you'd have to be able to attune to someone within the right faction, and then you would get the right stats. So anyone could use Excalibur, for example.
Okay, so attunement is faction-based.
But you can only attune this Excalibur to someone in the Avalon faction. So to give you an idea. And yeah, I think that's kind of like the main breakdown. I'll just go through the armor elements as well. So we do have like a full, just additional breakdown here. Make sure I've covered everything off. Main stats, substats, bonus. Yeah, let's go through.
Okay, so what's the difference between this epic piece and the rare piece as well? Because they're both level 8, so normally you would have lower... Oh, in the example of Rage, you'd only have like 2, here you'd have 3, here you'd have 4. That's obviously not the case here, so I might explain it in a second when I unpause it. But it doesn't seem like... All the rolls seem the same here too, so I think, again, it could just be placeholder. But I wonder what the difference is between the rarities.
Through them here. So different rarities of armor. Ultimately, the rarity is depicted by the name in our game, but you'll be able to see through colors, which are easy recognizable alongside your heroes in terms of rarity as well. Just see if there's anything.
Anything there. Okay, so this is what the roll looks like. So if you want someone with high accuracy, this is the glove for them. Now, I do have a thing on my website, which I've used raid gear for now, so I might end up coming back and just screenshotting this to replace it.
Different here that you would need to know. As you level stuff up, you can see the rolls go right the way through your gear, and you kind of get a visual for how strong the piece is until you get to the final roll, and it's like, okay, where are my stats gone? And then, yeah, and you can attune it. So I think I've covered everything off. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That is a whistle-stop tour of gearing, weapons, and our battle UI. I've been Simon from Fateless. I'll see you soon.
Okay, so that is that. I'm going to have to go back and re-watch that, get some details from it. But, you know, it seems that some of my speculation was right. I did say, you know, or come to the conclusion, at least recently, that imprinting wasn't something you did to heroes directly, something you did via the weapon system. That was correct. Interesting that the attunement sounded like it's faction related, at least for the weapons. Gear sounds like, I don't know whether it's faction related or whether it's going to be sort of, as Simon sort of alluded to, plate goes on tanks, leather goes on damage dealers, cloth on healers, that kind of thing. That's really cool, and that very much gives me WoW vibes. And you know, a lot of the team have played WoW, especially Dan or Fiction. I know he's played a lot of it as well, so there's going to be a lot of inspiration coming through from there. Really cool video, super excited for that. So I'm just going to go edit this real quick now, get it up, and then watch this a few times later for my own peace of mind. So take care. Look after yourselves, work hard, but as always, play harder, and I'll see you in another one soon. Cheers.